Our LQ today is how do you interpret remainders as whole number remainders, fractions, and rounding. We're going to be doing some division, some short division, using the bus stop method and looking at some other questions as well. Good morning, children, and welcome to today's maths lesson. Before we move on to the main lesson, let's have a quick go at this starter. Now, there are many different ways to solve this question. We're looking for missing angles X and Y. Have a think about it. We'll go through the answers on the next slide. Let's first ask ourselves what we can actually see on the screen. Well, we have a right angle triangle. We know it's a right angle because we can see that we've got this little square here. And it's kind of cut across the middle horizontally by three parallel lines. We know that they're parallel because they have these arrows here indicating that they run parallel to one another. Now, you can kind of see those parallel lines, they kind of chop that triangle up into two different triangles. Now, watch carefully as to what I'm going to do now. I'm going to draw what I hope will look like a parallelogram. So there's kind of a parallelogram there. What I hope you remember from the lessons a couple of weeks ago is that opposite angles in a parallelogram are the same. So this angle here will be the same as 145. Because we know that there are 360 degrees inside a quadrilateral, we can work out what these two missing angles are as well. There'll be the same number of degrees. There'll be 35 degrees. There we go. Now, all of those angles inside that parallelogram add up to 360. Now, we want to find angle X. We've got a straight line here. Okay, so this straight line will add up to 180 degrees. So I've got an angle of 35 degrees, a right angle of 90 degrees. That means that angle X must be 55 degrees. It's 55 plus 90 plus 35 equal 180. So I can add in now my answer of 55 degrees. We've also got another parallelogram. It's not drawn on, but we can imagine it's there. So I'm going to draw this one in purple. So it kind of looks a little bit like this. Okay. And again, opposite angles inside a parallelogram are the same. So this one will be 55. And again, because I know that there are 360 degrees in a parallelogram, I can work out these two angles which are the same, and they're going to be 125. Now, if I kind of continue my parallelogram shape, just a moment, I can kind of see that it kind of like comes down here, and I've got exactly the same parallelogram underneath, which means that this angle here is also going to be 125. And again, I've got this straight angle. 125 plus 35 plus 20 will equal 180. So y equals 20 degrees. So that was one way of finding out the answer to that question. There are lots of other ways that you could have done it. You could have worked out the angles of the major triangle, or you could have split the triangle up into two and worked out the internal angles of those triangles. Many different ways of finding the answer to this one. I hope you found it okay. Our LQ today is how do you interpret remainders as whole number remainders, fractions, and rounding. We're going to be doing some division, some short division, using the bus stop method and looking at some other questions as well. So let's quickly recap how we use the bus stop method. So for this one, I'm doing 1,892 divided by 4. Now, we always want to look at the digit that is closest on the left-hand side, and we want to try and divide that by 4. Now, obviously, we can't do 1 divided by 4. So we would then look at the next digit, which is an 8. So we would try to do 18 divided by 4, which we can do. So 18 divided by 4 is 4. And then I would have a remainder of 2. 29 divided by 4, well, 4 goes into 29 7 times, because 4 times 7 is 28. and then we'd have 1 left over. And then 12 divided by 4 equals 3, giving us an answer of 473. Let me show you one more. For this one, I'm doing 1,932 divided by 7. So again, I can't divide 1 by 7, but I can do 19 divided by 7. Now, 19 isn't in the 7 times tables. The number closest to 19, below 19, is 14, because 2 times 7 is 14. And then I would have 5 left over. 53 divided by 7, well, 7 times 7 is 49, and I would have 4 left over. Then 42 divided by 7 is 6. Give me an answer of 276. Have a go at this one yourself. We'll go through the answer on the next slide. So I can't do 1 divided by 4, but I can do 18 divided by 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and I would have 2 left over. 20 divided by 4 is 5, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Give me an answer of 452. Try another one yourself. We'll go through the answer on the next slide. 22 divided by 6 is 3, because 6 times 3 is 18, and I will have remainder 4. 49 divided by 6 is 8, because 6 times 8 is 48, and I'll have 1 left over. 12 divided by 6 equals 2. Give me an answer of 382. Sometimes our answer will have a remainder. Let me show you what I mean. 29 divided by 4 will be 7, because 4 times 7 is 28, and I will have 1 left over. 18 divided by 4 would be 4, because 4 times 4 is 16, and I'll have 2 left over. 25 divided by 4 will be 6, because 4 times 6 is 25, and I'll have a remainder of 1. Try this one yourself. Give your remainder as a whole number. So 34 divided by 5 is 6, because 5 times 6 is 30, and I'll have 4 left over. 46 divided by 5 will be 9, because 5 times 9 is 45, and I'll have 1 left over. 11 divided by 5 is 2, because 5 times 2 is 10, leaving me with a remainder of 1. Now let's look at our answer from that question. Our answer was 692, remainder 1. I've given my answer as a whole number, but we can always give remainders as fractions and also as decimals. Our whole number is always going to stay the same. So I'm just going to fill those two in now. We're dividing our number by 5, so any remainder that is left over is going to be a number of fifths. Because I have a remainder of 1 left over, that is a remainder of 1/5. So I can give my answer as 692 and 1/5. Using our knowledge of converting fractions to decimals, fifths are counted in 0.2s. So 1/5 would be 0.2. Let's look at the question that we did before that. We got an answer of 746, remainder 1. Think about how we would give that remainder as a fraction and as a decimal. We'll go through the answer on the next slide. Have a go at these questions yourself. For each answer, I would like you to give your remainder as a whole number, as a fraction, and as a decimal. So question 1, 219 divided by 4 would be 729, and our remainder is 3. Giving our answer as a fraction, or our remainder as a fraction, we have a remainder 3, and we were dividing by 4, so our denominator will be 4, giving us 729 and 3/4. Notice that the denominator in the fraction is always the same as the number that we are dividing by. We can then convert that into a decimal, 729.75. 3,342 divided by 5 is 668, remainder 2. Given my answer as a fraction, so the remainder is given as the numerator, and again the denominator is the number that we're dividing by, so 668 and 2/5. Converting that to a decimal will give us 668.4. 3,739 divided by 2 gives us an answer of 1,869, remainder 1. Giving my answer, my remainder as a fraction, the remainder is 1, so my numerator will be 1, and I'm dividing by 2, so my denominator will be 2, 1,816 and a half. Converting that to a decimal, we know that a half is 0.5, so we write our answer like that. Now, up until now, we've been giving our remainders as fractions in halves and quarters and fifths. We're very familiar with halves, quarters and fifths, and we can convert those to decimals easily. But what about if we had to give our remainder in thirds, or sixths, or sevenths, or eighths, or ninths? How would we convert those fractions to decimals? What I'd like you to do is have a go at the first sheet on the activity sheet. In this grid, I would like you to convert the fractions to decimals. Now, you'll need a calculator to do this. For example, if you wanted to find out what 5/6 was, you would have to do 5 divided by 6. And you would find that the answer on your calculator would be a very long number, but we want to keep it short to 3 decimal places. So that one would be 0.833. Obviously, you write it a bit more tidily inside your box. So have a pause now, fill those numbers out, and they will help you with the next lot of questions. Now, using the grid that you just completed, I'd like you to solve these divisions, and again, give your answer, give your remainder as a whole number, give your remainder as a fraction, and give your remainder as a decimal. Remember, keep looking back at that sheet that you've just filled in. We'll go through the answers on the next slide. So question number 1, 3,842 divided by 7. That would give us an answer of 548, remainder 6. Now, giving that as a fraction would be 548 and 6/7. Now, using your grid, hopefully you would have seen that 6/7 would work out to be 0.857. 3,048 divided by 9 is 338, remainder 6. Giving our remainder as a fraction would be 6/9. And you may have noticed that 6/9, 6/9 is the same as 2/3. Giving our answer as a decimal would be 338.667. 8,423 divided by 6 is 1,403, remainder 5. Giving our answer as a fraction would be 1,403 and 5/6. Converting that to a decimal using our grid would be 1,403.833. I hope you got on well with those children. Use the grid that you've just completed to finish the questions on the next 2 sheets. Thank you very much.